Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Seneca College. We're very pleased to have so many of you with us today. We know people will be drifting in and out, and so it's great to have you here. My name is, well, actually, I've got two name tags. One says I'm Bill Humber, and one says I'm William Humber. So I kind of like having, those two identities. I will be your MC for the day's festivities. Just to give you a bit of what our intent is today, we have a long-running contribution agreement with Environment Canada, the Federal Department of the Environment and Climate Change. And essentially our task as Seneca College is to develop a process, an educational process, best environmental practices, looking at the three areas, which I know you're all fairly comfortable with, perchloroethylene, which I will stumble, I'm gonna call it perc from now on, and wet cleaning, secondly, and other solvents as well. I wanted to invite a couple of people to come up and welcome you as well, and then I'll go through some of the additional details that we need to provide you with. So I'm gonna ask my good friend Jean Bilodeau to come up. Jean, many years ago, he won't tell you how many, was a Director General in Environment Canada in Ottawa, currently lives in Gatineau and has provided some extraordinary background today for us for this event. Jean?
Thank you, Bill. Merci. Je suis un collègue et un ami de Bill depuis plusieurs années, comme on dit. J'aimerais souhaiter la bienvenue à tout le monde. Mon temps à Environnement Canada, c'est il y a à peu près 12-13 ans. J'ai passé à peu près 15 ans à Environnement Canada. On a travaillé ensemble par la suite. Alors, j'aimerais souhaiter la bienvenue à tout le monde. Ceux qui ne sont pas nécessairement adéquats en français peuvent utiliser le système de traduction simultanée. Alors, gênez-vous pas. On a le système. Alors, j'aimerais souhaiter la bienvenue à tout le monde à ce symposium-là sur les meilleures pratiques gestion environnementale pour les nettoyeurs à sec. Merci, Bill.
I'd now like to call upon the Executive Director of the Ontario Fabricaire Association, Sid Chelsky, to bring greetings on behalf of the OFA, perhaps to say a few words about some other aspects of it.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to express on behalf of the Ontario Fabricaire Association our proud partnership with Seneca College and with Environment Canada and climate change. This has proven to be a benefit to all of us. And the more we can share all the good things that we've been able to put together and to enable us to provide the best practices, environmental practices for dry cleaning and wet cleaning industry throughout our country, the better it'll be for everybody. As well, I'd like to express an invitation to any of those who are not members of our association to consider membership. I do have applications with me if you want. We believe that we represent the best in the industry. We promote the best to our members, and we keep you informed as to what's going on with regulations. We try to be your voice whenever there's a potential problem. We work to solve as many problems as we can.
Sherry Emmerich is going to be our first speaker. Sherry is all keyed up to present. Sherry is the Technical Services Manager, Chlorinated Organics with Olin, and you saw their name in the presentation. She is from Midland, Michigan. She has 30 years experience of technical service and 7 years in this particular industry. So, Sherry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Bill. Just to give you a little bit of background about Olin, just so you know, where does Olin fit in with this? Because the product that they were showing was Dow Solvent, which people are probably familiar with that coming from Dow Chemical. So Olin Industries purchased the Dow chlor-alkali assets on the Gulf Coast in the U.S. in 2015, and along with that sale also came the chlorinated organics business, which is the business that I work in, and also the global epoxy business. Olin had a booth at the Clean Show in Las Vegas this past June, and we talked with a lot of the OEMs and dry cleaners there, and we kind of realized that there's a lot of misinformation about PERC out in the industry as well. We would hear comments coming from the customers, oh, I thought PERC was dead. You can't use PERC in the US, and PERC is banned. And so that's a little not true. The data regarding cancer classifications of PERC are not conclusive. According to EXA, the group in the European Chlorinated Solvents Association, there have been numerous epidemiological studies involving large groups of people that have been studied over many years, and they have shown that when PERC is properly used, then it can be safe for use in dry cleaning. But safe handling practices are essential for continued use. You have modern equipment that's been designed for greatly eliminating the vapors and emissions that could be exposed inside the dry cleaning plants. And when you couple that with best practices by the dry cleaning operators, then you are able to mitigate the risks of PERC. There are varying levels of hazards for different chemicals. You know, not all chemicals are the same. They have different hazards associated with them. And PERC is a product that's been studied very extensively. There's a lot known about it, and there's a lot of ways that you can mitigate the risks by having best practices for handling it. But the key to safe handling for any chemicals is understanding the hazards. And so that starts with educating yourself on what it is that you're handling. And so information is really the key to that. The material safety data sheets you should be getting from your distributor should have information on their safety data sheets about the hazards of the product, as well as the exposure limits and what kind of personal protective equipment to wear, also how to handle leaks and spills and how to dispose of it properly. In general, for chemical safe handling, you could kind of sum it up as follow the intended use instructions and then keep the product contained. So keeping the product contained means to not expose it to people and not expose it to the environment. It's keeping it in the pipes, in the tanks, away from exposure to the people and the environment. And for the dry cleaning industry, that means to use appropriate PPE, have good ventilation in your plants, also use the appropriate equipment. The higher generation machines, the 4th and 5th generation machines, greatly reduce the amount of exposure to the emissions because they have it built in that they are going to capture the vapors, refrigerate, recycle them, and you can't even open the doors on the machines until they're below a certain low part per million level. Protecting the environment also will involve keeping the containers closed when they're not being used. Have secondary containment, just like the video was saying. You know, you're keeping your containers closed when you're not working in them. You keep them in a secondary containment that's large enough to handle the volume and more of what you have in the container. And following proper disposal practices. Every year, Olin gives out our product stewardship packages. These go out through our sub-distributors. So those will contain the most current up-to-date safety data sheet, our dry cleaning handbook, a sticker that goes on the machine that has all the information about safe handling, risks of the solvent. You know, it'll have information for the dry cleaners as to what's inside that machine. And then we have our Safety with Solvents poster. That was shown in the video as well. We also have some documentation that is meant to help the dry cleaners by providing them a means to keep track of their machine maintenance and also their solvent mileage. So those are in that package as well. And other PERC manufacturers may likely be doing the same thing. Doing maintenance on the machines as well. So you want to make sure that you check for the leaks and spills, areas where the parts are becoming worn, maybe the hoses or the seals or the gaskets, and replacing them as needed. So you don't want to wait until you have a spill or an issue to have to clean up if you can do the preventative maintenance and make sure that doesn't happen by replacing parts first. Training is something that is very important. Keep training records on, training your employees. Make sure that you can show that we've had this training and these are the people who got trained. Have a documented training procedure for people to follow. When you have one person that trains another person and then maybe that person leaves, then that person trains somebody else. It's kind of like your training procedures and safe handling can get changed along the line. So you can actually have cases where the safe handling practices or the steps that would have prevented a spill or a leak or something, it doesn't get covered, it's get lost in translation. So it's important to have a documented training procedure so that this is our practice. You saw a closed loop delivery system. Many manufacturers of PERC are providing closed loop delivery. They were showing the SVRs that basically look like beer kegs, but they have a very special keyed valve. That's a two-way valve, so it connects on the SVR container, and it can only be actuated or opened with that valve when you pull the lever down to activate it. So there's a valve on the SVR container and a valve on the dry cleaning machine. They're dry disconnect valves, and the vapors from the machine when it's being filled will be directed back into the SVR container. So there's a closed loop or closed circuit, so there's nothing getting out to the atmosphere when that's being loaded.
Thank you very much, Sherry. So we're now going to talk to some of the alternative solvents that we've just seen in the video, some of the new developments, some things that are perhaps going out of style, some things that are coming into style. And to kick off that aspect, we have Trevor Holmes of Sites with the Intense solvent. Trevor is the National Sales Manager, and he made a point of saying that I had to tell everybody that he's an all-round good guy. So give a hand for Trevor.
Hey. Thank you very much. So what we're going to talk about is a fairly new solvent on the market from Sites, our company, and it's quite important, I think, to let you know who exactly we are. Who is Sites? We're established in 1885. It's a fourth-generation family business based in Germany. But I'm here today to talk about Intense. Intense was introduced to the industry in 2015 in Atlanta at the Clean Show. It's a registered trademark of Sites Company. It is an alternative hydrocarbon-based solvent, but it is formulated with what we will call a booster system. The booster system is allowing the hydrocarbon solvent to perform greater than just a regular hydrocarbon. Some of the properties of Intense: it is a halogen-free solvent. Its density or specific gravity is 0.79, so it is lighter than water, and it has a flash point of 64 degrees Celsius, or 147 Fahrenheit, if anyone is having difficulty with the conversion. I'll skip the boiling range because it really is not that important at this stage. The KB value, and everyone is aware of the KB value of 73, and just to finish off the properties, it is what is known as a thermally stable solvent. We can reuse it without the risk of it breaking down. Intense, as the name implies, is intensive through its action. It has a very high cleaning power, specifically on water-soluble stains. It's also gentle on fabrics and trims, and because of its cleaning power, it is reducing the time spent on pre-spotting and re-cleans. And more importantly, it is or can be used in any Class 3A machine without any specific additives. I've already said, because of the booster system within the solvent, it has a great affinity for moisture and really helps in water-soluble stain removal. But at the same time, it readily dissolves oils, greases, and waxes. Because of its nature of being lighter than water, lighter than other solvents, it is gentler on the fabrics, making finishing easier and quicker. And it leaves the garments soft and in a relatively odor-free condition. This is just a chart, and it's available in this brochure if anyone is interested, to show the relative power of Intense compared to regular hydrocarbon solvent and comparing it to PERC, which is acknowledged as perhaps the greatest solvent in the dry cleaning industry. We're getting very, very close to the results. So what are the advantages of Intense compared to a regular hydrocarbon solvent? The biggest advantage is in its cleaning capacity and its power because of this booster formulation and the booster system. And it really increases the water-soluble stain removal capability. If we compare it to perchloroethylene, yes, at the moment there are lower, fewer, if any, regulations governing the product as compared to PERC. Simpler storage and handling. We do not need a sophisticated or perhaps at times complicated delivery system, and we get much greater solvent mileage as compared to perchloroethylene. Here's just a little chart of comparison where we look at the relative properties of Intense, hydrocarbon, and perchloroethylene. Some of the products that can be used with Intense are the pre-spotting agents, the detergents that all are formulated with the Intense solvent, and how much per load is added. That is, this one here is for a machine with distillation. It also works equally well in machines without distillation. And this is on this other chart here. When you make the alternative decision, there are 4 factors I feel go into making the decision of which solvent to go with. There's the initial investment involved. There's the cleaning performance of the solvent, the ongoing operational costs, and technical support. Firstly, Intense can be used in any Class 3A machine, which means that there are no special requirements or additions required in that dry cleaning machine to operate Intense. And at the same time, it is available from all of our nationwide distribution partners. So that's the initial investment. And so together we're saying the initial investment in the equipment is marginally less than choosing an alternative solvent to Intense. Let's look at the cleaning performance. We've already said that it has a high cleaning power with outstanding stain removal, and it readily removes many water-based stains. At the same time, gentle on the fabrics, which in turn reduces the time spent in re-cleaning and pre-spotting. Let's look at the ongoing operational cost. Intense is competitively priced in the marketplace. There is no annual license fee or dues to use Intense. After the initial filling of the machine, because of the excellent mileage that you get from it, you only need to refill it with a 20-liter container. Certainly now with the technological advances of the latest machinery, the solvent mileage is very, very high indeed. For an operating cost also, we're saving time and money with pre-spotting and re-cleans, and it's also safe on most trims and beadwork. Not 100%, I don't think anything is. Some of the beadwork that we see these days, you only have to look at it and there's a problem. So the fourth element of the decision-making process is on the technical support. We pride ourselves of having a worldwide and local technical support. We have a nationwide chain of authorized distributors, and we supply ongoing research and development to help support the solvent. So to sum it all up, because of the advancement of the dry cleaning machine technology, we are able to use a solvent that can give comparable results to PERC.
Can you tell us what the cleaning time is in the typical cycle, say for using Intense?
Just over an hour, 65 minutes.
What's involved in taking a DF2000 machine and converting to Intense?
Cleaning out any contamination that may be existing in the machine. That's basically it.
Mileage. What's the mileage on Intense? compared to
Between
the
3,000
others?
and 4,000 pounds.
Is there any odor?
Very, very little. Every chemical has some odor, no matter what. We like to think it's odor-free, but comparing it to water, there's a slight odor.
Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Richard Fitzpatrick, Vice President with Chrysler, the K4 solvent.
Hello. So I'm going to be speaking about K4, and I wanted to do a brief introduction of my company first to give you a little bit of a background on who we are. So Chrysler is a little over 100 years old. We're a mid-size German manufacturer of textile chemistry. We also have a robust pharmaceutical division. We have a lot of brain power in our company in R&D, and we're able to synergize and use a lot of resources between those two divisions for product development and testing and those kinds of things. We're ISO certified in a bunch of different fields, and we're very active in patent applications. Solvent K4 was introduced in 2010 to the marketplace. We actually started the research and development on it back in the mid-90s. Specifically and kind of unique with K4, K4 is a patented product, and we have several patents in many countries, including here in Canada. And the patent protects the use of the solvent in textile cleaning, and it also protects the use of detergents in the solvent. And that's a little unique in that when a dry cleaner chooses to use K4, he makes the conscious decision to use Chrysler. And so it's a long-term partnership, and we take that very seriously in our commitment to the client to make sure that they're happy with the product and the performance. But we do ask the dry cleaner to respect the patents, and so that's a little bit different from the other alternatives that are on the market, where you're not obligated to use a specific product. What is Solvent K4? So Solvent K4 is a completely new solvent for the professional textile care industry. It didn't exist as a co-solvent or a cleaning agent. It had been used in household cleaners, in pharmaceutical industry, in cosmetics, but it was completely new to our segment. It is an ultra-pure solvent. We do quality assurances on every single batch of solvent that is produced. We look at its concentration, we measure its flash point. We keep those records going back for many years. In fact, we have records going back to our original batches of solvent that were produced, and we go back and we analyze to make sure there's been no changes in the solvent over time. Dibutoxymethane is the chemical name for it, and it has a lot of nice benefits, non-toxic, biodegradable, and so on. It's a class 3A, like almost all of these alternative solvents are. It has a good kV value. Unique to K4, it has a very low energy requirement for distillation and for drying. It doesn't take a lot of energy to convert it from a liquid to a gas. It allows us to reduce the steam pressure requirements to the still, and allows for fairly quick drying. It has the ability to dissolve both polar and non-polar soil independent of detergent additions, which makes it a very good cleaner. It also has a good water, the ability to solubilize water into it. And it has excellent solvent mileage, you know, on average 3,000 pounds per gallon or better. A little bit about how the solvent is actually made, and one of the things that we've been dealing with is you know, battling rumors and trying to make sure that the information out there is correct. So dibutoxymethane is made by a very simple reaction between 1 mole of butanol and 1 mole of formaldehyde, creates a semi-acetal, and then they add another mole of butanol to create the full acetal dibutoxymethane. It's kind of a simple and clean reaction. Its only byproduct is water. The fact that we use formaldehyde in the reaction does not mean there's formaldehyde in the solvent. In fact, every single batch that we test, we look for formaldehyde. There's no detectable formaldehyde in it. And one of the misconceptions is that this solvent has formaldehyde in it, but that's untrue. The solvent cannot release formaldehyde, and the solvent cannot turn back into formaldehyde within your dry cleaning machine. The cleaning results are excellent. They are on par or better to what we saw with PERC, and we see a broad range of fabrics and trims that can successfully be cleaned in K4. Leather, suede, fur, different types of beading, glues, and painted items. Very simple to use, very simple to build your loads. We basically recommend people just build light and dark instead of the many categories that they would have to build previously. And simplified spotting, you can use free addition of water in the solvent. You can spot with water and not have to worry about drying or leveling, which is a benefit for dry cleaners that are working on a lot of water-soluble soil. For safety and classification, Solvent K4 only carries the GHS classification for just a warning for combustible, and with WMIS it has the same label for combustible. No additional risks for inhalation toxicity with the solvent. There's no workplace exposure limits, and waste classification and best practices for handling are going to be the same as hydrocarbon. So it's a very simple and easy solvent to work with. There's very little additional regulations, and certainly the paperwork is reduced significantly when using it. I talked earlier about how the solvent is made, and I talked about those 2 raw ingredients that we use. And currently, those 2 raw ingredients come from the petroleum industry, so they are byproducts of the petroleum refining industry. We knew for a long time that we would be able to get one of those components from corn. And we were waiting for a manufacturing facility to come online and give us that ability. And we were very fortunate that a company from the UK called Green Biologics purchased an ethanol plant in Minnesota and retooled it to make N-butanol out of corn. And so this gave us access to a very clean, stable, price competitive product. And we are now formulating Solvent K4 with 90% of its carbon coming from biomass. And this will make Solvent K4 the first bio-based solvent in the dry cleaning industry. We're going to be eligible for the USDA Bio-Preferred label. We're in the process of that application right now. And we're not certain if there's a comparable label available in Canada, but if it is, we will certainly research that. But it'll be the same solvent delivered to all of the North American partners. So you would be buying this solvent and knowing that it comes from a renewable and sustainable product. And that's really important to us as a company because that's one of our core beliefs, is to always look at ways to reduce our carbon footprint and without reducing the quality, making things more sustainable. And that goes back to our underlying manufacturing facilities in Germany where we recycle all of our water. We have solar, we have geothermal. We really look at the best ways for long-term for the benefit of the planet and for the sustainability of our company. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
So our next speaker is Greg Reinhardt with RR Street. Greg, you told me your title and I've already forgotten it. It's
I am the Technical Services Manager for
Technical
RR Street.
Services Manager with RR Street. Greg, take it away up top. Thank you very much.
Just a little background on RR Streets. The company was formed back in 1876, and 3 years ago, RR Streets also made an acquisition of ADCO, which was founded in 1908, and also with the Laidlaw. So now we operate the brands RR Streets, Puritan, ADCO, and Laidlaw in the dry cleaning industry. And K-Tech Solvent was a joint venture between Bardol and FMB Corporation out of Italy, which manufactures dry cleaning machines. And we actually took the opportunity to distribute that in the North American markets. It's a Class 3 non-halogenated solvent developed in Europe, actually in France, in conjunction with the FMB Group and Bardol. It's commercially introduced in April 2016. I actually did some R&D on it back with Union in Atlanta back in February of 2016. It is approved as a drop-in solvent for Fibermatic, Real Star, and Union machines, and it's available exclusively through our industrial division and our distributors. As far as the benefits, it's got a KB value very similar as you see to all the alternative solvents, which we're trying to reach that point of being comparable to what the industry expects, and we're at 75. It works very, very well on greases, oils, and water-soluble stains, and the glycol content is what actually works with all the alternative solvents on reducing water-soluble stains. The unique thing about this particular product is it is 90% hydrocarbon instead, and the way the ratios are, it's 3% of an orange terpene or orange oil, and then basically 7% propylene glycol. As far as efficiency, we can work with shorter run times than what we normally do with our hydrocarbon solvent. As most of you do know, that Streets has worked with the DF2000 from Exxon for many years, and it's substantially shorter than those particular run times that we see with your typical hydrocarbons. Also reduces your pre-spotting, and K-Tech's, because of its nature and gentleness, as you see with all of them, have low wrinkling and fabric distortion rates, which make it very pleasant fabric to use in finishing and cleaning. The gentle cycles works very, very well with a lot of woven and non-woven type fabrics, knits, and different types, even some of your satins that can have been known to distort with some solvents. You see very little shrinkage and distortion, and once again, the dry cycle. Dry times and total cleaning times, typically I'm looking for 58 to 67 minutes, depending on the type of garment, type of machine, conditions, and of course the maintenance of the operator certainly varies how those times can vary itself. And of course it's good for business. I won't use the word odor even though it's typed here, and as I stated yesterday, every solvent that we see has a unique signature, identifiable by either the finished product or the solvent itself. There is, when it first comes out of the machine, a slight citrus smell that follows this product that does dissipate through finishing. Minimizes wear on fibers, which also gives us a light new finish and extends the life of the fabric, and also provides soft and pleasant texture to the garment and natural drape upon finishing. This here is a comparison chart where it just basically compares to the most popular solvents we see in the market at the time of introduction, and it just goes through. And as far as some of the comparisons, we're just basically looking at the KB value. We also don't have any regulatory issues similar to PERC. What makes it less expensive sometimes is the high PERC taxes that are added on in most states, and it is comparably priced to what is sold in the States and in Canada. And then also, like I said before, it has an improved water-soluble stain removal than PERC. As it compares to high-flash hydrocarbon, it has a higher KB value. Hydrocarbons relate between 26 and 27. It has improved water-soluble stain removal. That's because of the glycol ethers in the blend, and also with up to a 40% wash cycle time compared to regular hydrocarbon with this particular product. Signatures here with the popularity of K4. In some, we have been involved in some where there's certainly less pungent of an odor or less signature coming out of the machine. but once again, upon finishing, most of those signatures are dissipated. Significant reduction times virtually than what we've seen with K4. Also, the K-Tex also works uniquely where most steam pressures that I'm distilling at is between 24 and 36 pounds of steam, regardless of the size of the still. So where some of your hydrocarbons are working 40 to 45 to reach the temperatures and things like that and the boiling points, this particular solvent does reach it at lower steam pressures. And it also tied in with the lower cost of the solvent. And also with the K-Tex, you can work with anybody's particular products that are as far as additives or detergents that you work with the machine. So it's not going to be product specific to maintain the process or the integrity of the solvent. Also, there's no licensing fees, significantly reduced drying cycles versus your silicone solvents, higher KB value, and it handles water-soluble stains. And then the popularity of where you've seen with the Khaled Gen X and the Intense, it eliminates the glycol distillation issue because of the percentage of content. You don't have as much drag out as has been noted from some of these other blends, so you don't have to have a periodic boosting to the solvent, and which also allows for significant drying reduction times. But it is a similar cost to all the solvents out there.
I know most of the solvents are interchangeable with a hydrocarbon. Is this solvent interchangeable with a perc machine or just a hydrocarbon?
No, this is a Class 3A solvent. So being a Class 3A solvent puts it into the classification of being non-flammable but combustible. So I can sit there, and throw a match in this product, it wouldn't. That's what I mean. There is a difference between being a flammable solvent and a combustible solvent. And this product here, as most of your alternative solvents, do reach that point of being non-flammable but combustible. And as far as a drop-in solvent, let me clarify drop-in solvent. Because of the ratio of which this product is, let's say, like I said, 90% hydrocarbon, 7% propylene glycol ether, and 3% orange terpenes, if you had a 100-gallon machine and you only put 5 gallons of this solvent, would you actually see a benefit from putting 5 gallons of just this product into your machine? Probably not, because of the ratios. So normally what we have recommended is if somebody's going to make a move, just like they would with the Intense or any other, you'd like to go through a full maintenance workup, clean out the tanks, the solvent cooler, the coils, make sure your discs are clean, go through a complete decontamination product, and then you'll see the full benefit of any alternative solvent you're moving to.
Tim Maxwell is our final speaker before lunch. Tim is the president of GreenEarth Cleaning Systems. He's going to speak to us about GreenEarth Solvent.
Thank you for allowing GreenEarth to be here today. I feel like the old guy on the stage based on some of these products that are relatively new. GreenEarth has been in use here in Canada now since 2001. And Robert, we have about 50-some affiliates here in Canada. So thank you on behalf of all of our GreenEarth affiliates, and some of you are here today. So we're a little bit different than a lot of the other products that are available in the dry cleaning space. Our company was formed on the basis of looking at the dry cleaning industry and the challenges of the dry cleaning industry 15 years and longer before, regarding some of the impacts and the constituent groups that we as dry cleaners face every day. Let me talk a little bit about who we are. A little unique in that we've got 2 Fortune 500 companies as initial shareholders and founding members of GreenEarth Cleaning. And then we've got about 1,800 affiliates around the world with 6,000 locations of consumer contact where we deal with customers around the world and the consumer around the world. P&G and GE don't really need an introduction. The dry cleaners, the 3 founding dry cleaners behind GreenEarth operated over 400 dry cleaning plants in the United States. They knew the industry, they knew the challenges associated with the industry, so they got excited when a product became available that allowed for some of the challenges that we face as dry cleaners to be mitigated. So the product was a silicone product. Silicone, despite what I've been hearing over the last couple of days, has no odor, and that's why it's used in many of the antiperspirants, underarm deodorants, hair conditioners, shampoos that you and I use every day, hopefully, and those products like facial creams and so on that we've been used for decades. And as silicone is used in those ingredients, think of it as the inert medium that acts to carry the active ingredients and then volatilize off and dissipate. So there's a wealth of information regarding the human health and safety and environmental impact of those silicones, and particularly the D5 silicone that we use in dry cleaning. So as it goes down the drain of your shower in the morning, gets to that wastewater treatment plant, because it's lighter than water, it rises to the surface, and then with 8 to 10 days, it volatilizes off and can turn into nothing but SiO2, CO2, and water. Sand, water, and CO2. That's all it can turn into. This slide goes back again to 1999. One of the reasons that we got excited as a company, we took a look at the regulatory status. It is the only product used in dry cleaning today that is a non-VOC, is specifically exempt as a VOC because of the way it reacts in the environment. It doesn't work to form smog or work with other members of the other products in the atmosphere to cause smog. Doesn't have any exposure guidelines by OSHA, listed as a replacement for ozone depleting chemicals. Under RCRA, the Resource Conservation Recovery Act, and CERCLA, which is known as Superfund in the United States, it's not regulated by California's Prop 65 for products known to cause cancer, and therefore it's got a very, very clean bill of health, and we were excited about that in 1999. That has not changed. None of those criterion has changed in the last almost 20 years. Here in Canada, probably the most comprehensive study of silicones was initiated back in 2009 when Environment Canada said, hey, we understand that this product is used ubiquitously in a lot of different applications, certainly the personal care market. We're a little bit concerned, though, as we get that if it gets to that settling pool, it rises up and is, through photodegradation, turns into sand, water, and CO2, but a little bit concerned about how long it may take to do that if it doesn't reach the surface, and it might bond to some sort of product or organic material, stay underwater, get into sediment, be eaten by a fish, be eaten by a snail or a worm or something else, and is it persistent and does it bioaccumulate? So Canada took a very, very hard look, and there's an 83-page report that's available, and in 2012, the Canadian Environment Minister made this statement through the 83-page report that says it's virtually impossible for siloxane D5 to occur in any environmental matrix at concentrations sufficient to produce harm to the environment. Excuse me. That's a pretty strong statement. That's a statement that we have hung our hat on and continue to hang our hat on regarding the environmental friendliness of this product and why we market our product as environmentally non-toxic. Our product line overall is designed with a concentrated detergent and an activated clay filtration system and the pure D5 silicone to be able to save the average dry cleaner about $10,000 in costs using GreenEarth at a $500,000 plant revenue run rate, $10,000 in costs between utilities and ingredients. American Association of Textile Colorists and Chemists, along with the DLI, we sit at the table to talk to them about things like dyeing, spandex, combinations of spandex and polyesters and cottons that may be issues with wet cleaning, dry cleaning, no matter how they're processed. We work with them to understand, hey, we can be part of the solution rather than seeing the garment care industry as a problem. And because of that, because of those Garment Technologies confidences in GreenEarth, we've been able to have a significant level of data to support the fact that a gentler way to clean allows for better sales at the consumer level by making garments that the consumer wants to buy and will look forward to being able to use.
After 21 years in business, I decided to convert my entire operation 100% to water. Why make the switch? Fundamentally, I believe that in order to grow, you must do something different. It was also at this time in the early 2000s when a lot of change was happening, the internet, the rate of information, the rapid rate of information that was available to all of us, and also the green initiative that we saw unfolding before our very eyes. Many organizations were using this green initiative as a key marketing factor to also promote their businesses. Just a quick couple of statistics I would just like to throw your way is one in particular is from the Worldwide Cleaning Industry Association. And they have published a report, and they say green cleaning is a marketplace phenomenon that is driven by customer demand and the overall trending of the broad marketplace for environmentally preferred products and services. We all understand that wet cleaning is the art of taking garments, which are traditionally dry cleaning, and cleaning them in water. It's very important to understand that in wet cleaning, we need to limit and minimize the agitation of garments. Specifically, those garments which are structured and possess sensitive fibers such as wool, silk, and possess other ingredients in their linings, for example, like rayon, acetate, and anything of the pulpous variety. Those fabrics are considered sensitive to water, and we have to be very, very careful. Mechanical action is also important. It's controlled by specific wet cleaning machines, which can be programmed to mitigate all this action. It is also important to understand that agitation must also be monitored on the drying side as well. So we're actually cleaning the clothes in the washer, we're taking them out wet, but after all that agitation, they're going to be put in a dryer again, and they will continue to agitate until they're dried. So it's very important that all this mechanical action can be controlled by specific wet cleaning and dryers. Because too much action can cause damage to fibers and make it harder to finish and press afterwards. On the wet cleaning side, again, just a quick overview, our machine must be able to control water level, water temperature, drum rotation, mechanical action. And on the dry side, the same thing. We must adhere to proper temperature and moisture controls, as well as drum movement to limit abrasion and minimize lint. As in many aspects of life, chemistry plays a vital role. Wet cleaning is no different. It all comes down to balance. We need to ensure that the pH balance be in the neutral area. Specific wet cleaning detergents and conditioners must be used in wet cleaning. Another important fact to understand in wet cleaning is that volume must be controlled. Just because the capacity of a machine, for example, is 60 pounds, doesn't mean we can put 60 pounds of cleaning in it. We must reduce it by half. Many of the skills to determine these loads of cleaning are learned through the experience of a dry cleaner. So for a dry cleaner to convert to wet cleaning, a lot of the work you've already done and learned. It's pretty much straightforward, just carrying over, and you already have the understanding of how to separate specific fibers, garments, colors, and things of all those nature. It is imperative to have it treated with a soft water system, as you saw in the video. This reduces many hard minerals and boosts the chemicals, which equates to using smaller doses of products. Again, efficiency. By using a soft water treatment system, you can minimize the amount of soap used, which always comes beneficial to the bottom line. Once garments are clean, we press and form finish them. The reaction of the heat and pressure from the pressing, along with the ingredients, they get activated through that whole process. And it provides body and firm creases when required. It also gives great balancing to the garments. And then it's important to understand that without tensioning equipment, you cannot successfully be a wet cleaner. They go hand in hand. The genesis of getting involved in the development of wet cleaning products was a result of a lot of the inconsistencies I was experiencing when I first started off as a wet cleaner. There were issues of dye migration and excess residue, lack of body, and they were always more expensive. They added an extra cost because they were specific to wet cleaning, so companies were charging us more for a lot of these products. So these are all the things that I looked at and helped me understand what was really happening from A to Z. This knowledge was compounded by my affiliation with a gentleman who was a retired chemical engineer in the soap business. This friendship started in 2013, and within a year, I had come up with a formulation of highly concentrated materials that worked in low water levels and required no rinsing. The main challenge in wet cleaning is to eliminate fatty acid, provide balance and softness to sensitive materials such as wool, silk, and linings, protect color, and eliminate the threat of dye migration. Prevent fabrics from getting rough and tangled. Most importantly, these products are free of phosphates, are biodegradable, and adhere to all the codes, and legislation for discharging into our drainage system. What is the immediate impact of wet cleaning? On the top of the list is we eliminate a solvent, which means you don't have to buy anything. You use the water that's available to you. Elimination of filters. Elimination of wastewater, particularly in PERC, where water is separated. Elimination of lint separation. If you saw those videos on dry cleaning, you saw people in the back removing lint, putting it in a container, removing water in a separate container, removing sludge, putting that in a separate container. You don't have any of that with wet cleaning. And on top of it, then you have elimination of solvent waste and used filter disposal. So all those things must be picked up by a registered, licensed waste management company, which adds more cost and more effort to your overall daily workload. What else does it mean? You drastically reduce utilities. Wet cleaning requires water and minimal electricity. These wet cleaning machines are so efficient right now, you don't need to spend a lot of money on utilities. You also use less soap, which lowers costs, but primarily, wet cleaning offers you peace of mind.
Something you forgot to tell people was that washer, you put $10,000 worth of scarves into a washer and put water on them.
That's right. Each of those scarves has a retail value of between $1,500 and $2,500. The lady that came to the store was turned away by a dry cleaner because he asked her to sign a waiver that if anything happened to these scarves during the cleaning, he wouldn't be held responsible. And I took the challenge. I've done my research. I know how far I can push the envelope. Believe me, this is not hard. This is not hard. It was hard for me to get to this point, but it is not hard. I've been able to get it to this level.
So how much did you charge for these scarves, sir?
I'll be very honest with you. We charged $40 for each scarf. Yeah. So that soap cost in there cost me less than $4. I was able to produce $400 in cleaning in a 17-minute wash cycle and a 20-minute dry cycle. So this process has come this far. And for all the people that do a lot of volume and poundage, I have 2 of these machines and 2 of these dryers in my shop, 60-pound washer and 75-pound dryers. I'm able to produce 70 pounds of cleaning per hour in water. There are a lot of dry cleaners in this industry that can't do that. And we're doing it with water. And we've eliminated solvents, waste, all the headaches. It's live and in living color.
Dino, thank you very much. This is
Thank
great.
you.